Alright, so the other week I did this sketch, and basically it was just a portrait of kind of a Gothic girl, woman. And I decided that I wanted to kind of elaborate on it a little bit and kind of push my design a little bit more into something more interesting. And so with that done, what I've essentially done now is kind of copied the external layers, selected them all, and I'm going to then paste that into a new document where I can essentially put in as a head for my rough figure. And so here I'm going to draw the figure, and I just draw a generic basic pose, and I'm resizing things as I draw. I'm getting a rough sketch. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pick my colors from the face, and I'm going to make a square patch, and I'm going to make a sphere, and then with that I'm just going to kind of block out this. And so this will give me some basic colors, very, very basic colors, to kind of work with on the body. Now, it's not going to be a nude picture, but I did want to do some transparency on the dress. So, this may sound stupid, and it's really easy, to do, but it gives you a base color, and that way I'm not stuck with one color kind of pose, and I can actually kind of paint where I want and kind of add and subtract, and it gives me a really good base when I do this. And then from there, I'm essentially fleshing out the body a little bit. I'm adding in neck muscles, all the anatomy, to get my basic female figure going. And then from there, create a new layer, and I'm starting to kind of block out the dress that I'm using. And I'm just picking several colors and kind of going on and building from there. Now, one of the things that you need to know is that at this size, I'm painting like 17 by 12 or something like that, or 11 by 17, 300 DPI. And so at this level, for video purposes only, I don't really have to worry too much about details. I'm more concerned about the large shapes, wrinkles, things like that. And I do zoom in once in a while to kind of add things in there, but ultimately I don't need to worry too much about that. I just need to worry about the overall kind of look and feel to it. And for this purpose, I'm just kind of roughing out my basic shapes and my basic ideas. And then from there, I'm adding in a little bit bigger details and kind of pushing, that type of thing in a little bit more as I go. So you can see here, I'm using the left side to constantly look at the piece as a whole, and I'm using the right side to kind of zoom in and paint what I need it to. And that gives me the amount of detail that I'm looking at. And so then I don't have to sit there and spend all this time working on something. If I'm only going to use this for, video, or even like just a simple, like, I'm not worried about print, I'm not worried about anything like that, I can simply block this out and make it look really simple, really fast, and kind of give my base ideas. And you can see that even not zooming in and zooming out, I definitely don't have to worry about like all the details and all that stuff. But at some spots, I add a little bit more to it so that I do see what's going on, and I can kind of give it the overall feel. And essentially what I'm doing is just kind of adding in colors, and then here I'm going to expand it because I decided I wanted wings, and I'm just going to block out that as a whole. I could have probably done one side and then flipped it over, but in this case I just kind of painted through. And a lot of this is just simply going through and kind of shaping it out and kind of adding in more and more textures. In this case, I'm just using squiggle marks to add in a little bit of kind of veiny textures in there, and kind of push that thoroughly. The gray background is really nice because then I get a basis of like what it's going to look like from a kind of average standpoint. And then here what I did was I created a new document, and I'm just simply creating a lace pattern. I just decided I wanted lace on there. And so again, I didn't need to go this detailed, but and it's very rough as far as this goes, but when I add it in there, and I'm just spreading out the paintbrush and changing my spacing between the brush, and basically I can just simply draw what I want for lacing, and all of that stuff makes a huge difference. Just it's a lot of detail in a little kind of manner, and then with that idea in mind, I don't have to sit and worry about it. I can just kind of add in the detail that I want and kind of rough things out. And then what I wanted to do is, put this little bit of lace around the top of the character, or around the hips, to kind of flare out the hips a little bit more. And then I'm going to kind of add the kind of threading real quick. And I just did, I think, a soft overlay. And what that allowed me to do is really simply kind of draw out the lace pinstriping of the outfit. And then from there I decided I wanted to repeat that pattern of the straps around the arms, and I'm going to repeat that around the legs here. What I'm doing is I wanted to shape out that dress a little bit more. It was getting too much like a block, and I decided, because I'm using transparency, I'm going to add a little bit more definition to the legs. I didn't really need to, but my OCD says, yeah, you should do this, and so I listen sometimes. And then as I'm kind of painting this through and kind of roughing this out, I can then kind of detail up the outfit a little bit more, adding in a little bit more kind of wrinkles and definition. And I put a masking on to create transparency, and then I'm cleaning up some of the lighting issues that I have, as well as kind of adding in the different pieces that I'm making. So you can see here, putting the threading on again, and then putting on the lace and stuff like that. And then I'm getting close towards the end, so I basically add in kind of a backdrop, some jewelry, and so I add the backdrop in there, and that backdrop gives me kind of a basis. And then what I'm going to do is kind of adjust the colors with a little bit of color dodge, and then I'm also going to kind of play around with that. And then I'm basically working on the horns, and I decided I wanted some sort of a halo on there, just to kind of add a little bit of something different in there. And then here's my background, and using just a chalk brush for that. And then I'm basically going through with the dodge brush and kind of going through there. So that's the piece in its entirety. If you have any questions or need some help with something, feel free to send me a message. And I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.